Now, when it comes to mice, this is the original optical mouse, and it would move over this, and it's really hard to see in this video, but you can see little grids there, and the optical mouse would actually read where it was on this chart. This is a mouse that has been disemboweled, and somebody played with it and lost all the parts to it. Notice the connector, okay? This is an old Apple computer mouse. Notice the little ball is missing, and you have these little rollers. Well, those little rollers underneath these little contraptions here, there's a little optical relay that actually, it's got a little sawtooth on it, and it goes through and it tells you where it's moving up and down. And look at the size of that IC chip. Look how big that is. Okay? That's a mouse. And then let's look at some hard drives. This is a hard drive that was used at Foster Farms on an IBM Diskpack. And this Diskpack, you lift these things up, and this whole unit goes into something the size of a washing machine, and you pull out the drawer, you put in your Diskpack, you push it in, and then you turn it on. This, I Can Be a Computer Operator, is written in 1986, is for the kids, and it tells you, and it shows you some really cool pictures. Can you imagine computing back in the day on these monstrous machines that have less horsepower than your cell phone? Okay, and I'll do something with this book. I'll try to get some better pictures for it. But this Diskpack held maybe 300 kilobytes, maybe 300 megabytes, take that back. So it didn't hold a lot. Then there was an upgrade, and then they went to these single disc platters, and they would put in, and they would have stacks of 30 or 40 of these in a rack. And then there came the hard drives with the spinners, and you can see how the hard drive just spins around. Pardon the reflections on all this stuff. And these things move, and these heads actually fly off the surface of these drives. Now here's a smaller drive. This is 3.5, this is the 2.5. Get that ruler so you can kind of see the size difference. So you can see there's difference in size. And then this is an old 5.25 inch drive that was replaced with 3.5 inch. And look at the size of the motors on these things compared to what they are now. Again, miniaturization has happened at all sorts of things. This is what happens when your hard drive crashes. When the head actually spins or twists, and it grinds the head down, and then that information is all lost. And it's a sound you do not like to hear. It's terrible. Ruins your day. Okay? Now, as we move into other areas of technology, some technology that didn't make it here's one. This is called an optical worm drive, which stands for Write Once, Read Many. And this is what it looks like. You can kind of sort of see that is a plastic, and they used lasers to fire holes in it. You can never change the data. It's written once and there it stays. It's kind of like a CD-ROM. Now, this is a platter that was used, and can I kind of hear it? It's made out of glass. And glass, they used lasers to fire this thing up and use them, and this held, I believe, 1.4 gigabyte on each side. And this was in the days before the law caught up to the technology, saying, how do you create a facsimile of a legal document? In the early days of the law, they said you have to create an exact copy. Exact copy. Well, this is a bit for bit exact copy, and I believe the data on this one is old X-rays. It was health records and stuff. Who knows what's on it now? And then there's the other fun stuff with the cell phones. Remember these things? Yeah, you look at these. Yeah. They actually did something called make a phone call. Now, what I want to show you is the evolution in your USB drives. I'll go down here and I'll put them next to on the white paper here so you can see. So this is a fairly new, long forgotten, this is a 64 gigabyte USB 3.0, notice it's blue at the end, new current. This is when they started out. This one is only 128 megabytes. I mean, it's a factor of, almost 2,000% less. Megabytes versus gigabytes versus megabytes. So you have all those things to learn in computing. What does that mean? Okay. And as I'm walking around in here, I'm just shooting this with a cheapy handheld video recorder. And then this is a tape drive. And this is how the tapes are. If you look at old episodes of Star Trek, you'll see that they have big tape drives in the back. Tape is still very reliable. It's one of the few things that actually can hold data for multiple decades. Okay, and I'll show that in a minute. But this is a keyboard, and this is how keyboards are built today. Notice how it stays together. Isn't that nice? Well, in the early days, you would get to play 100 key pickup, 101 keys. And these little pieces of silicone are underneath the key, and they push and they actually make a connection with this mylar to be able to get a key to press. And then this is the logic chip that actually makes the thing work. And keyboards like this cost like $9 brand new, and you can spill Coke and stuff on them, and sometimes you can get away with them if you rinse them off fairly quickly with distilled water, so there's no residue left. And then I've had people folks take their keyboard, they spill Coca-Cola on, and they basically drowned it in distilled water, and then they would basically put it in the top rack of the dryer or washing machine, the dishwasher, and then on the dishwasher put it in the dry cycle, and then it worked. Kind of crazy. But I have a good story about keyboards. Is that many years ago in a long closed burrito factory south of Chowchilla, this side of the keyboard didn't work. And so what I did, old days, but in the new days, think of this. There was a squished roach, smushed right in there, smashed. And that's why the keyboard didn't work. So when I fixed it and cleaned it all up, got rid of the bug guts, the folks asked me what was wrong with it. And I said, well, you had a bug in your keyboard. They kind of chuckled. And then I have a last piece of equipment here that is really a lot of fun. And this is how computing used to get done. You can see there's a connection here, and this is a connection here. And if you watch old movies, there's an old movie called War Games, and I'll show you what this thing has done. I'm going to walk into another room now. Now this is actually how we got data back and forth and moved around on the old days of computing. What this is an acoustic coupler modem. You would put this on your phone, and you'd use the computer to dial through your phone to make a connection over a modem. So the technology that we now have today is literally light years ahead of what we used to have and have to work with. So I hope you've enjoyed this little quick overview of some hardware. And I got some old broken PCs here. See, here's where the chip is missing. And it might be a little fuzzy. But these pictures can show up in your book. This is pretty common hardware. And so I hope you enjoyed this. And at that juncture, I will stop this video. Thanks for tuning in.